I try to talk to other teams building on top of that technology, because then you get a lot of surprises. I want to be sure that if I have a problem, I can talk to the core guy that's coding that. Most of the people, we need to do a website, and then maybe not. Just try with a Telegram group.
How do you evaluate blockchain technology on where you want to build on? Is like, do you have a specific format that you look, there's a new chain coming out, like, every day? There is so much stuff coming out. For you as a builder, how do you evaluate that? How do you look at these technologies, say like, hey, this makes sense for what I'm going to do, this doesn't? Has that a lot to do with they have already users, they have good documentation, they have an APK? Like, how do you evaluate that?
It's Web3, nobody has good documentation, I guess.
I was waiting for that one. Yes, it's terrible.
It's always terrible. Usually, yeah. I just I try to talk to BD or even like marketing teams to evaluate the community they have and if they can help or not. And like talking I try to talk to other teams building on top of that technology, because then you get a lot of surprises. They basically some of these even later ones, layer two, even some of them, they're really new. They act as a corporate in the sense that basically they don't help at all. If you have any problem, nothing happens. So going to these like public channels where basically you have, I want to be sure that if I have a problem, I can talk to the core guy that's coding that.
Yeah.
And if we want to do anything, we want to have BD helping us out, or So for me, once again, like, it's not that much about technology. Yeah, I think like EVM, it's really convenient because like there's not enough blockchain developers, but at least like there's enough developers that they know about like EVM compatible kind of technology. Yeah. But right now it's EVM compatible. The rest, whatever it happens, it's not that important. If it's like slower blocks or fastest block, I don't care. I'm gonna do something that I call like optimistic UX. Basically, every time I send a transaction, I just think that's gonna go through. So the message to the user is like, it went perfect. Yeah. It went smoothly, and so I can handle that, and then I can retry, and then I will take care of everything. So time block, it's not that important, but yeah, like the cost, it's important. And also now, like for example, for us, like if we want to evolve in the future, you need to be sure that, for example, like I can launch an MVP with a set of smart contracts, but if we want to have our own L3 in the future, and for us, for example, it makes sense, I want to make sure that I can do that. So that a good technology that you can scale.
But that's not an easy ask for a first time founder, right? They're like, look, build your architecture out in the most like modular, crazy way, so that whatever happens, you're like, there's not many people in this space that I know of that can do that, right? And because it's really hard. It's like, you're preparing for what you don't know. So build as modular as you can. Don't trust any chain you're building on, because that might change as they go. Generally, that will be better, but chains can go dead, right? Like there's not enough traction. That's a really hard.
It is, but because you don't know, that's why probably focus on business.
Yeah.
Because business, at least you will get enough investors, then you can sell to a CTO and have someone with experience with that. So at the beginning, because you don't know, and there's no way you can like have all of that information. So
no, I tend to agree. I think if you, and that it always kind of goes back, because we are, of course, in this industry for a long time, we have a big bias about technology around it. Most of our end users don't care. They really don't care where this.
None of them, Thomas. Nobody cares.
None of them. No.
What we do needs to be perfect, but nobody cares.
Yeah. And I think that's an important piece, but it needs to work. And it's like we always recently have been comparing it to the cloud, right? Like, Azure and AWS. I'm like, do you care where your data is? Do you care how the cloud works? No, I don't care how the cloud works, but it works, right? It works. Okay, that's great. So now, if you're gonna advertise your new platform, new whatever, you're gonna say, and we're using AWS. Like, do you think people are gonna buy that? Like, they don't care. Yeah. They really don't care. They care that it works, and they care that it will stay working, and that it's secure and it's safe, and it will get better and better. So that's an important thing. But they don't care about what technology you use in the backend. Like,
then with the right CTO, you know that you're gonna start with AWS, and it's gonna be cheap. But then in time, if you need to grow a lot, that's gonna be really crazy expensive. So you need that kind of experience. That's why, like, first, like, build something. you can launch the testnet anywhere. Nobody cares. If it's modular enough, you can choose later and then get a proper CTO to help you with that.
So kids, it's less about technology. It's more about business.
Always. It's about money. You need money to do everything. So you need to convince people to give you time or money.
I fully agree. Liam, you have anything to add here?
No, absolutely fantastic.
It's just like it's interesting, Alex, because you and I have spoken about this so many times last year in East Denver as well, where there's so much technology, so much noise out there, and it's really, really hard to distinguish it if you're not in this industry or in development for at least a while, right? Like you'll just move with the waves otherwise. And I think that like you're one of the people that I always really appreciate on your opinion on this, because you generally always said like, well, I call bullshit on probably almost everything. And I think that's a really good perspective, because I think not enough people do this, right? Like there's just too much echoing going on. It's like, no, but this new technology piece, or this new ZK rollup, or this new, yeah, okay, but who's going to use it, right? And who cares? Who really cares about this technology?
But think about that, like new technology, ZK rollups, they're amazing. The thing is, like the guys that they started with optimistic rollups, they launched earlier. They have technology that works.
Yeah.
And now that they know, eventually they're going to migrate to ZK rollups. But they already have the market. They just like did the business side. So now they have, like, for example, Arbitrum, really huge community. A lot of people building on top of that. Nobody cares if it's optimistic rollups or ZK rollups.
Yeah.
And I do believe ZK rollups are better technology, but at the end of the day, this is about the business.
Sometimes it's not the best technology that wins, but the biggest adoption, right?
Always. No, sometimes I think that's always the case. So, but if you see that right now, there's like Optimism, Arbitrum, all of them, they're doing really great, better than most of the ZK rollup technologies. Because like, if you try to code, I tried with Startnet, Aleo, and I love those technologies, by the way. They're really good. They're some of the best pieces of tech I've ever seen. But of course, you need to understand Cairo. So basically coding in Cairo, it's fun. Or coding with Leo. Even they're really good languages, but there's so many things you need to learn before doing that. So focusing on the business side, I think that's what makes a lot of sense, basically, right now.
That's probably the best advice that is being, like, it's consistently, by the way, being given throughout, I think, all the episodes that we've been shooting over the last 2-3 months. People always say, like, technology is great, make sure it works. Focus on the business, make sure you get your end users, make sure it makes sense, retain your users, like build features that make sense. And now, don't build stuff that you think is great. Might be great, but backtest the hell out of it, because if you don't,
and someone with experience, probably me myself, I've over-engineered so many times in my life. But and you think about it, it's like the amount of money I spent on salaries or whatever, that basically on things nobody used.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So just because I over-engineered, I did like an amazing technology that could handle like millions of petitions, and I had 5. So
yeah. This is an issue that we've seen consistently in with Intersect as well, and before that in our previous companies. People come in and they have like these crazy cool ideas, and they're cool. They're really leveraging interesting strategies and customer retention and everything like that. It's like, that's great. If you want to build an MVP, that's also great. And we have these 20 happy paths of users. I'm like, whoa, why 20? Do 2. It's like, no, because without the other 18, it's not a full product. It's like, no, that's, you got to refine your happy paths. Like, what's the top 3? These 5, no. What is the top 3? These 4, no. What is the top 3? And it's really hard if you can't get there because like you think all your stuff is great, you're doing something wrong. And we've seen people throwing away money at that. We're like, don't do this. Just launch. Just get your shit out of the door. Backtest it. If it doesn't work, we'll add something new to it. But make sure you get that market feedback, because if you're not, you just spend a ton of money on nothing.
That's, Thomas, probably the worst, like the most difficult thing to do. I mean, imagine like a pitch deck. I need to explain my technology, and I have 1 hour. I will do a great job.
Yeah.
And then I have 30 minutes. Okay, it's not going to be that easy, but I can explain my technology in 30 minutes. But then suddenly I have 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
yeah, but
exactly, I cannot explain everything. I just need to focus on.
But it means that you got to be very critical on what comes in and what goes out. That again, I think falls back on experience, like understanding what is important and then still test it out. Like talk to people, just throw it on the wild, see if people are willing to pay money for it, for instance, right? Like, and once again, like we've seen people just coming with big budgets, like, they raised 5+ million and they're like, oh yeah, our MVP is going to be $1 million+. I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. No, but we really want to build it. It's like, okay, well, we'll advise you all the way, but this is a really bad idea. And then it turns out it's not a good idea. Like there's, you pivot, they pivot as they go, and that's why they still survive. But we've seen people, and that goes for all places. I think all emerging tech spaces, that you spend too much money on building something great that doesn't get users. So just
first
throw it out.
Spend money on acquiring users.
Yeah.
Or go where the users are. That's why like when you choose like which blockchain, talk to the users, look for community.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So Alex, like you talk a lot about building stuff from scratch, custom development. Are there solutions, like, are you leveraging existing solutions, and how are you looking at those? Like, is that a calculated guess or a calculated risk that you're taking, or you say, well, most of the things that we do or that you should do should probably be custom?
No, I try to use as many pre-made things as possible at the beginning, and right now we are lucky because there's so many tools and options we have. Even like most of the people, we need to do a website, and then maybe not, just try with a Telegram group.
Yeah, very lean.
Yeah, and if it works with a Telegram group, then maybe do an app for Telegram, and then so keeping as simple as possible, using everything that already exists at the beginning, for me makes a lot of sense. Simplicity. Once again, like I think one of the questions that we had, like, what one of the things that you would take with you everywhere if you want to start minimalism.
Yeah.
Being able to, because like, once again, like simplifying, it's always harder than just over explaining, over engineering. That's what people with no experience do. Because that's the easy thing to do. Building something, it's easy. Building something really that focuses on something and do it, that's really hard because you need to know what you want to build.
Yeah, and it's generally a very small piece of an industry, like a piece of an industry. Yeah, we always
rely on every platform or everything until you get there.
Yeah. It's like a KISS principle. I've not heard it like very recent lately, but when we did engineering, or we still do engineering, it's always like KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Like that's where you go with it. It's like if you can keep it simple, you're probably doing something wrong, or you're in such a complex industry that simplicity doesn't exist. But that doesn't happen very often. Definitely not in where we are, right? So
the chopping process, chop things, like whenever you have your ideas, for everything you add, at least take out 2.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a while ago, we had a client that wanted to build a bridge. I forgot, I think it was Solana, Ethereum, or it was something. No, it was not. That was something pretty exotic. And we were looking at Layer 0 to use, and or Fireflies from Hyperledger, and they both fulfilled about 80% of the requirements. But the other 20% needed to be custom. But we couldn't build on top of what currently Fireflies and Layer 0 expect. And it was basically, we went back to them with like, look, this is what the cost is going to be if it's custom development, and it's a lot because it's a bridge and it sucks and security, and or we're going to go with this, which is about 80% of your requirements, and it's up to you. And in the end, through different business circumstances, they decided not to build it at all. But they said like, well, we're thinking about the 80% solution. I said, well, if I can give you an advice, do it. Like, if that custom development is needed, let's say in a year, you'll probably made so many fees and so much money off that bridge, you can build that custom piece. But don't build something that's incredibly expensive, and you don't, like, if you don't have enough users to bring that money back. And luckily they understood that, but that's not often the case, right? Like, it's very often like, yeah, but we're gonna build a custom bridge. I'm like, oh, please don't.
Entrepreneurs, they get really in love with their ideas.
Yeah.
That happens to us. I happened to me many times, by the way, but
that's a theme that I've kind of gathered quite a bit, I think, from our conversation today is you try not to get emotional when it comes to your code, the software. Don't get emotionally attached to the blockchain.